Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. In recent times in Lagos, the rains have been torrential, with attendant effects on the state of the roads and traffic gridlocks. The roads under construction are worst hit as they are heavily flooded. Lagosians are not too happy with the ever-recurring traffic situation attributable to inadequate road networks, poor drainage, and road maintenance. Lagos State seems to be grappling with infrastructure development and maintenance issues. Joining us now to discuss these issues and more is Wale Oluwo, the former commissioner in Lagos State. Wale, welcome to the morning show.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you.
But let's start from some basic fundamentals. The average Lagosian is saying, yes, it's been quite a number of months since the Lagos State government got a new executive, particularly the governor, who came into office after his predecessor was denied a shot at his second term in office. And many people are concerned that they haven't seen a momentum. The governor is very good at attending parties and events and shaking hands and taking photographs and pointing at, planned projects and all of that. Why do you think we have this, what looks like stasis, what looks like a lack of momentum? What could be responsible? I mean, I know Babajide Sanwo-Olu very well. I know he's ordinarily a very dynamic person. But why are we not seeing movement many months after he assumed office?
Let me say this. The problem is both structural, administrative, and transitional. Let's start from the transitional problem. We've had a change of government from former Governor Ambode to the present Governor Sanwo-Olu. The mode of that transition was not what we were used to. It was a forced denial of a second term. So from August all through to May, there was a lot of distraction. But we thank God for Governor Ambode that he was able to manage those distractions and still finished very strong, delivering on major projects, Airport Road, Oshodi, and the rest of them. But the point I'm making is that distraction has made a lot of things to start to go wrong, even before Mr. Ambode left government. A new government that is conscious of that transition crisis should have known that upon coming into power, you must immediately fast-track attention on 5 things. Number 1, you must fast-track attention on refuse, on street lights, on security, on flooding. Because no matter how good you are as a governor, during the transition period, you are being handed over power in May, and May, you will find the rains. And another set of rain will come in September, October. So the 2 rainy seasons, the 2 rainy periods, you will inherit them in your first term during the transition period. So I'm sure they didn't quickly put structures in place that will make them to deal with these issues. So that's what I blame them for. But on the overall, there's a structural problem. And that structural problem, if you don't fix it, we'll keep repeating this.
What is the nature of that structural problem?
It's both political and infrastructural.
Can you explain it?
Part of the political structure is that we have a system that is highly monopolized.
By who?
By a set of people.
Who are that set of people we're talking about?
Am I allowed to be naming names?
Go for it.
Please, go ahead.
This is the
Name
media.
them.
You have to. If we can't
forum.
provide information, then...
This is the way I will look at it. There is a party in power, right? And that party is being controlled by a group of people. That group, I used to be a member of that party until I joined the opposition party. So that group has monopolized power in this Lagos. And you see, there's a danger to power monopoly. It will not allow fresh ideas to come.
You mean there's a cabal?
There's a cabal.
In Lagos?
Yeah, absolutely correct. So that cabal will not let fresh ideas to flourish in Lagos, no matter how hard you try. Unless you want to tell me that the Americans are foolish, that says power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. and that if a man has spent 4 years to 8 years, he should leave. So the constitution that we run did not envisage a situation where somebody will spend 4 or 8 years and go and hide it under somewhere and still take the power with him and then remotely control it. I don't think that will work for us anymore.
Who is the head of this cabal? Since you say you were part of that cabal previously.
I was not part of the cabal. I was a member of a political party.
Okay. But you know the cabal.
Party, you will have different groups.
Who is the head? Who are the other supporters?
Who are the other supporters?
Who is the leader and who are the other members? Because this will be useful to people who live in Lagos.
Look, the leader of the party in Lagos here is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
So is he also the leader of the cabal?
You're not getting it. The cabal, there's no doubt about that. I'm just trying to explain it to you.
Okay.
There's a cabal, and the cabal will have leaders, and it will have followers. And there's a political party. And the political party will have different groups and different caucuses. And it is the group that is in charge of the power that we normally call the cabal.
Okay. So you are saying that's part of the problem, the structural political problem.
There's no doubt in my mind that that's part of the problem.
Okay. That no doubt in my mind. The present governor has.
No, but the present governor must be able to work within that constraint. I see what is going on in Lagos. The last week, I drove by about Macaulay. Honestly, I see a huge crater, and they had to put a stick and put some flags to let you know there is something bad there. And a lane that should be 2 lanes is now being constrained to 1 lane. Look, I went to Mushin. It was as if I was in Somalia or Sudan.
That's the state of Lagos right now.
Yeah, one section of the road has completely collapsed, and we found ourselves facing each other on that Mushin to Oshodi road. It's not supposed to be like that.
It's not. And
I don't think it's been this bad in a long time. So the point I'm making is, the cabal is there, but we've seen 2 governors work within the constraints of the cabal and still deliver. So
who are these 2 governors?
Governor Fashola and Governor Ambode.
Okay. Well, let's move away from the politics of it for a second and focus on the infrastructural deficit that we're faced with in Lagos City. And why it's so appalling is because Lagos City is supposed to be one of the mega cities that we have in Africa. Lagos City is supposed to be a smart city. And you look at some of the infrastructural problems that we have, and you wonder how they can even exist under those names and tags that we like to flourish ourselves with, namely power. We can start off with power. And I'll ask a very simple question. Why is it that in 2019, going on 2020, in Lagos City, populated with over 20 million people, we still have not been able to achieve statewide 24-hour electricity? I don't understand it.
I think it's a matter of priority. And the greatest regret I have when I left office was the fact that we couldn't deliver on our power program. We had a very comprehensive, very, very ambitious power program that was supposed to deliver 3,000 megawatts, and we're going to start with 10,000. And this was something we worked on for 3 years. And we achieved a very comprehensive roadmap that was taken to the regulator in Abuja, and it was approved. We had a letter from Abuja giving us the go-ahead to commence the program. We got that letter in 2018. We also put together a legislation that was approved by Abuja and was taken to the State Assembly, and it became a law. The governor signed it in 2018 into law. So we had the regulatory framework, we had the legislative framework, and the roadmap to do the power plan. But by the time the political crisis started, the power issue became secondary, and then politics took over the whole thing. So it's not as if there is not a plan to put Lagos on a 24-hour power supply basis. It's just that that program is incoherent as we are today. You have all the ingredients. The new government just needs to sit down, review it, agree with those areas of it they want to agree with, and those they don't agree with, they fine-tune it, and then they can continue the program, honestly. But that program will take us to that 24 hours.
Well, I think it's a shame that Lagos has no electricity.
That's not the problem. The problem is that if there is a roadmap, let's not celebrate problems again. Let's focus on the solution and get it done.
No, it's not. You know, the issue is not about signing MOU, signing agreement. The issue is about implementation. So, and you have said that the new government in Lagos has a responsibility, to go back to that agreement with Ikeja Disco, I think.
Yes, and Eco Disco, both of them.
And Eco Disco, and make sure that Nigerians have, Lagosians have regular supply of electricity.
Correct.
So what kind of advice, in specific terms, will you be giving the government in place in Lagos? Because, you know, it's possible to just look at it and say this was an Ambode project and just ignore it.
With respect to the power?
Yes.
I think they should review it.
What aspects should they review?
No, I mean, review it for acceptance.
Okay.
You know, every government will come with its own programs and its own priorities. If they review it and they see that it aligns with their plans, then they can begin to implement it. I don't want to say our plan was the best plan. That would not be fair to them. If they had their own power plan, put it side by side what we had in office, and then see how you married the two and implement it.
Well, I see.
The people don't want to know about the process you are going through. They just want to see the light and they pay.
I see that, you know, you are tempted to keep defending, you know, your tenure in office with Governor Ambode, but at a point you dumped him when he was facing crisis, and you left APC and you went to PDP. Why? And then, of course, recently, you and Segun Banjo, you were both accused of, you know, being having provided information to implicate former Governor Ambode before the House of Assembly. I know you have tried to defend yourself.
I didn't try. I defended myself.
No, well, my own view is that you tried to defend yourself.
No, because
but
it was
what
televised.
exactly happened? You dumped him, and then later you were accused of also selling him out. What happened?
I'm sure you didn't see my letter.
No, I have a copy.
You
It's
did?
on my phone here.
Okay, I agree that you may have a
Someone
copy.
close to you sent a copy to me. And it was reported in PM News, another newspaper.
I like that you have it on your phone, but I'm not sure you have read it thoroughly. Because my closing remark...
You're underestimating me.
Sorry, sir. My closing remark in that letter was that I did not and I could never have implicated Governor Ambode because I'm a Democrat, I'm a loyal team player, and I'm a strong believer in collective responsibility. I don't do that. Why would I be a part of a government and I denounce that government? No. And I did not abandon Governor Ambode when I left office. There's a process of democracy. And I went through that process. If you agree with what is going on generally, you take responsibility. If you don't agree and the majority say this is what we want to do, and you are in minority, even if you don't agree with that decision, you must still defend it. And if you think you cannot defend it, you can excuse yourself and move on. You know, you voluntarily entered into government, you can voluntarily come out. I don't abandon people, it's not in my character. And Governor Ambode has never said I abandoned him. I still stand by him till today, and I'll continue to stand by him. Because I know he's somebody that loves Lagos. So why should I abandon somebody that loves Lagos? So when there's conflict of interest, personal interest, state interest, and you can resolve in favor of state interest, those who are gunning for personal interest will not like you. That doesn't bother me. I know how to resolve those conflicts. I will resolve in favor of my state any day, because I'm from this state.
Well, thank you for your clarification on that. I'll take you up on a question and then we'll go on a very quick advert break. But I wanted to move us on to another topic of infrastructural deficits in Lagos to do with our drainage problems and how we can start to go about solving our drainage problems without shutting the whole city down, because it seems as though we have a serious planning problem, and I'm sure our viewers would like to know how we can possibly go about solving that for brighter days ahead. But let us go on a very quick commercial break. And of course, as soon as we are back, Mr. Wale Oluwo will still be in the studio with us discussing infrastructural deficits in Lagos State. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching the morning show here on Arise News, and Mr. Wale Oluwo is still in the studio with us, a former commissioner in Lagos State, discussing several matters around infrastructure and, of course, more. Now, before we went on a break, sir, I had asked you about our drainage systems and how we can go about solving that without shutting the whole city down, because it seems as though it may take shutting the whole city down for us to actually be able to achieve what we have to when it comes to drainage.
I don't think we have to solve the whole city down. And I think the man that is in charge of, the man that's in charge of environment now, Mr. Tunji Bello, He's a very experienced man. I think this is his second time or third time superintending that Ministry of Environment. So he knows what to do. Maybe because he's still, but there's one step he has taken that I did not agree with. And I will not say because he's my friend, I will say it. We have started to dump refuse at Olusosun. That's that junction by Ojota. I don't think it's the right thing to do because that place was shut down during our administration.
Last year, they stopped dumping refuse there, no?
It was actually shut down. We put a lot of sand on it, and it has started to become very green. But now I see a lot of trucks, dumping refuse there. I don't think...
There was a story over the weekend that the Sanwo-Olu government is also now planning to shut it down again.
Okay, no, if
Through Loma, right? I think I saw that story as well.
Yeah. But if you do that, that's the right thing to do. There is no point putting refuse in that place again because refuse generates methane gas, and it can be very combustible. When we were in office, there was fire, and the fire lasted almost a month. So it's not a small thing. The gas keeps sustaining the fire, and you can't stop it. For drainage, I think the first thing is to make the water to flow. A lot of them are blocked. If you make the water to flow, it will reduce the problem by almost 30–40%. Then you now begin to look at the arteries and the outlets and see how you can either expand them. Sometimes there are bottlenecks. Because the last time it rained, I drove all around to see the situation in Ikoyi and VI. And a lot of them are just issues of, bottlenecks, which they could expand and make the water to flow more freely. But mind you, Lagos is below sea level. So there is nothing you will do that will give you that respite for a long time. We must keep investing in putting groins, putting, like the Americans will do, they put, what do you call this one now? There's this retaining wall that you do, and you put pumping machines on your side so that the water from the sea or the lagoon does not come back, but your pumping machine can always pump water out of the city. That's what they do in New Orleans. So it's not rocket science. It's to go to the advanced countries that have been able to handle some of these things, look at the technology, and then replicate it here. I don't think it's something that cannot be solved.
Well, Governor Ambode is in the eye of the storm. The House of Assembly in Lagos State has been saying that he should appear before them. And as part of their investigations, they raised a number of issues. One is the issue of the Lagos State Transportation Project, the OSHOD, project, and the purchase of 850 buses. 810?
820.
820 buses for 24 billion.
Yep.
Now, some people are saying they can't see those buses, and those buses are not budgeted for. Some people are saying the buses are on the roads, and they have been useful. And then there is also the second issue of street light installation, which was supposed to have been sponsored by, is it the Exim Bank?
The UK Exim Bank.
The UK Exim Bank, and I think that was under your ministry.
Absolutely.
Yes, and there were also queries raised about that. What do you know about these two issues, on the basis of which the House of Assembly in Lagos State is today calling for, sanctions?
For its appearance.
Yes.
I don't think they can sanction. It's just its appearance.
First appearance. But
what
are the issues at stake?
Let me just correct one impression. Nobody has said they didn't see any of the buses. Okay. There's nobody, including the parliament.
It was not budgeted for. So where did
they say it was not budgeted for. But we also need to be careful because Governor Ambode has dragged the parliament to court. So we don't begin to discuss things that are already in court. But I will just lay it on the surface.
This is a matter in the public interest.
No.
When a matter is in public interest, you can't discuss it.
I'll play the public interest of it so that I don't offend the processes of the courts. Now, it's very clear. The buses were bought. They were bought with the Paris Club refund. We know how the Paris Club refund became a problem in a lot of the states. But in the case of Lagos State, Governor Ambode told us nobody should touch that money. We'll put it in those buses so that you can help the people of Lagos State. Those buses have been bought. Some are in the Kosciari's warehouse, some are at the ports. So if we say the buses are not on the road and there's a new government that is in place and the government is a continuum, they should go to Kosciari's, resolve whatever issue is outstanding, collect those buses. The terminals have been built. The laybys and the bus stops are all there. So you resolve the problem. That's what government is about. So that the buses can come out and the people of Lagos can get the benefit of that investment. But it was a wise investment. It was a good investment. And nobody has faulted us on that. And one thing is sure, even when they say it was not budgeted for, they are going to commission it soon. And they are going to sew Ankara and celebrate it and all that. But that does not take away the need for the appropriation process.
You have seen that the present government likes Ankara and Ashwebi a lot.
I'm not accusing them of that. It's a matter of style, really, as far as I'm concerned. It's a matter of style. But what is important is that nobody has accused anybody of not purchasing those buses. Nobody has accused anybody of not stealing money. Of stealing money, rather. Please note this. These are very important. And then what they are saying is that it was not budgeted for, right? And we went to the assembly to defend it, and it was approved. And I said it on Channel TV the other day. That approval they gave, they now put a clause that you should not implement this approval until you come back to the parliament. That's the first time I'll be seeing half approval or incoherent approval. From secondary school to university, we were taught the process of lawmaking. First reading, second reading, committee stage, public hearing, and all that and all that. Nobody told us that when you have signed a bill into law, you come back to the parliament again before you can implement it. That is very, very strange. And I do not think that should be the basis upon which the parliament should be calling all of us to come and explain. We didn't put the strange clause. The parliament put it. But like I said, I won't go further than that because the matter is already in court. So let's be very careful.
Okay.
How about the street lights, which was a matter directly under your ministry? I know that you managed to put some street lights on 10 Mainland Bridge.
No, I didn't manage.
Okay.
It was part of the... It was a well-thought-out plan. So I didn't manage. And there was nothing done by mistake. We were a government that was thorough. And if it's not going to happen, we will not waste anybody's time. Now, we were spending too much money on street lighting. And the structure for street lights installation and management was 100% risk on the government of Lagos State. So we said, why should we use the government money to install? And we are using the government process of monitoring and management and all that. They were not too efficient. So we got an investor who collaborated with the UK Exim Bank, and they agreed to install with their own money. And the installation they agreed to do were LED lights. They were more efficient, and they would cost us less. And they agreed to use hybrid powering system for it, in which case there will be solar, there will be little diesel. And that
generator.
Yes. We were using diesel, and where we have IPPs, we use IPP. But they were going to manage everything for 10 years. And we paid them over 5 years. So we thought that was a good way to go with respect to street lighting installation. And we went into that process. And those guys used their money. And we went to the parliament to present this. And it was budgeted for. But after it has been approved, a clause was put in the law again to say we should come back before we implement. And we're not used to that. And as an executive, you don't want to begin to violate the process of separation of power. So we said, no, those things that are legal in the law will do. Those that were not convinced is legal will not be part of that illegality. And when we did that, the parliament was not happy. But they had the option to go to court and seek interpretation, whether the parliament can make a law and say what I've given you is half approval, and you must come back to me to... Well, nobody does that.
We have just like 2 minutes left, but let me ask you a political question. There are people who think that Governor Ambode, whom you worked with, could have handled the situation differently. He could have shown greater courage, by standing up to the cabal in Lagos State and insisting or maybe going to another party and testing his popularity with the Lagos electorate. When you look back, do you agree with that viewpoint? Do you think that he gave in too easily? And is it possible for anybody in Lagos State at any time to really stand up and say, no, nobody can monopolize Lagos State? We won't agree.
I agree with the last one, which is that people can stand up and say we want to change the power structure in Lagos State. And I'm committed to that. I believe the power structure should change.
Governor?
I want to serve my state in whatever capacity. But it has to be a group of committed people coming together and saying, we want to replace those in power now. That's the way of democracy. Nobody should be worried about that. If you don't want anybody to challenge you in power, then don't participate in democracy. Go and do military rule and then take power by force. But as long as it's the democratic process, look, I'm in the opposition. The only job I have is to remove the ruling party. That's the way of democracy. Now, let's come back to Governor Ambode. I'm not in his mind. And if he said he should have antagonized and go to another party, I don't think that would have been the best way to handle the situation at that time.
You left the APC and went to the PDP?
My personal decision. He has a right to his own personal decision. It's all a matter of what you want to do and your ability to take the consequences of the action that you have taken. So I decided to leave. I was not elected. If I were elected, maybe it would have been a little difficult for me to just abandon ship and leave. Because when we are elected, you are responsible to the electorate. And you need to ask them, see, I'm planning to do this. You gave me this mandate. So I was not elected. I was appointed by the governor. And I went to him and I told him, Governor, I want to leave. On personal reason. Because I didn't agree with what was going on, and I felt I should just excuse myself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Has been very interesting indeed.
It has.
Thank you.